Is there a better time to respond to this comment? Could you do an old school Klopp tactic? Fabinho as the anchor, Trent and Robbo created a ton of assists, overlapping runs by created width. Not seen anyone do that yet. Tired of this inverted nonsense. So because of that, and obviously the news that Jurgen Klopp is leaving, we're going to dive into his 2019-20 Premier League season 4-3-3 classic on Football Manager. Let's go. Now, only 12 months prior to Liverpool winning the Premier League for the first time in 30 years, Liverpool had the highest points won total without winning an English top flight league, 97 points. But fast forward 12 months later, they won the league with 99 points, 18 points clear of Manchester City and 33 ahead of Man United and Chelsea. So to create the tactic in FM, we need to look at a couple of things. We need to look at some team statistics for the season. We also need to look at the individual heat maps and average positions, certain numbers and metrics that I've got to put together this proper Jurgen Klopp replication. So Liverpool ranked first for attempted long passes, third for PPDA, behind Southampton and Leicester. However, that number would actually lead the way this year if we were looking at a 23-24 season. They were second for crosses, best defence in the Premier League, second for possession, third for counter-attacking behind Spurs and Manchester United, with both at the time counter-attacking teams, second for goals scored, and third for passes percentage completed. So that gives us a little basis of how they play. We know it was dynamic and sort of like the gegenpressing. We're going to be a 4-3-3, and it looks like this. Here we go. Now, I've obviously put it into FM24 with today's players. There's a couple of players, we haven't got the ideal replacements in particular for the midfielders of kind of Wijnaldum. Hopefully, Gravenberch can kind of go to them Wijnaldum levels over the next couple of years. McAllister, I'm having to play as that Jordan Henderson role. Okay, so moving to the goalkeeper, Alisson. We have sweeper, keeper, on attack, no player instructions. Now, the wing-backs we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about. Both at the moment on wing-back on support with a couple of player instructions. So Trent, we've got more direct passes. We've got that on because he was ranked third in the Premier League that season for long passes. Okay, so we just want him to be a little bit more aggressive with his passing. Doesn't mean that he's going to kick it long. He'll just be a little bit more adventurous, a little bit more direct. Cross more often. Absolutely massive numbers from both Robertson and Trent. I've also not gone for complete wing-backs because they did this season, stay really wide, and the heat maps show that for both of them, and stay wider for that to make sure that we ensure they stay nice and wide because we're going to have them two wider attacking players in Mane and Salah coming in really narrow. On the left-hand side, for Robertson, we've got cross more often and stay wider. We've not put the direct passes on because Robertson was quite a way down the list in terms of long passes, down in, I think, about 18th and 19th. So that's why we've left that off. Now, I do think that is down to the number of switches that Trent would have potentially put in. There was often switches from Robertson as well. Encouraged to do it. We can't really put that into the game, but I am hoping just that direct passing might just allow him to look a little bit further, a little bit more adventurous in terms of that switch of play. And if you look at the assists for the season as well, they're just, both of them, on 12 assists for the season behind Kevin De Bruyne. Absolutely incredible numbers. And something as well is OBV, so on the ball value, which basically is the contribution a player makes to the team's chances of scoring a goal. And if you look at their OBV, Trent's ranks first in the division for the season, way ahead of Lucas Digne of Everton and De Bruyne in third, with Robertson a steady number in fourth position. Now, that obviously means how creative they are. Trent Alexander-Arnold's pass OBV is 16.64, as we've said. If you look at Fabinho's, his was as low as 0.57 for the season because he's basically keeping hold of the possession. He's playing it simple and often, pass it backwards and sideways, not creating much of an attacking threat with his passing actions. So that just shows you the value, in particular of Trent, but also Andy Robertson on that left-hand side. Into the two defenders, we've both gone with a ball-playing defender on defend. Now, just because where we're playing, FM is not allowing me in the player instructions to have more passing directness for Virgil van Dijk. I would have clicked that on if possible because obviously he ranked second in the league, first for Liverpool in terms of long passes for the season, often sweeping balls out wide, often balls into the channels, switches out to Mo Salah as well when he could. But we've got them both as ball-playing defenders on defend. Robertson we spoke about. Now the Fabinho role, it at times could be a half-back, depending on how teams built up, but they did like to build with a back to Liverpool, pushing the fullbacks on a little bit. At times, just to change and alter a team's way of pressing, Fabinho would often come in here as the half-back and play, but generally would sit in there and act as a little bit of a wall pass where it could maybe go into Fabinho, back to defender and out the other way. So I've got him as an anchor. Now, I've done anchor just because of the team mentality and stuff we've got going in the team instructions. If I went defensive midfielder on support or defend, like even the anchor goes all over the place at times, but I just feel that role is well suited to what Fabinho can do in real life and kind of mixing it into the game. And if you see his heat map as well for the season, really in that middle third of the pitch, not venturing far forward at all. So I think anchor suits it quite well. And obviously with that really low OBV value as well, it does kind of show you that he was there just to tick things over, break things up, rather than being that sort of like deep kind of metronome quarterback style player. Into the middle two, Wijnaldum and Henderson generally now. For me, this is quite open, I think, at times. Basically, if we look at their heat maps for the season, both of them, both kind of getting quite wide at times. So there's options for maybe a Mazzala to go in those attacking areas. But what I've done is I've gone with a Carrilero on support for Henderson, but with the instruction to get further forward, because his job was to come and support in here. It was also to create runs, underlapping runs, for Mo Salah when he was 1v1. I think of the first goal against Barcelona in the second leg, I think Jordan Henderson's run gets him into the penalty area shot. Origi taps it in. Those sort of runs we're getting. Now we might be able to do that. I didn't want to put central. You could potentially maybe do central midfielder on support as well with that instruction of stay wider on, just so we get him moving into these wide areas and getting this sort of like 3v2, this triangle with Trent and Mo on that right-hand side. The left-hand side, I've kind of gone box to box because I just think that probably suits Wijnaldum the best, but with the instruction of stay wider on, like the goals that he scored in, once again, the semi-final second leg, getting into the area, heading at the near post, but also trying to move into wide areas in possession. So that's why I've got that on. Now, Mo Salah, we have gone inside forward on attack. If we look at his heat map, he kind of starts it wide. Now, I nearly put on the instruction of stay wide, but if you can look at his heat map, you can see that obviously he's in general build-up, he stays wide in sort of like maybe the first phase, but as the play develops into that attacking third, he's right inside. Normally because we've got overlaps around the right-hand side, Trent Alexander-Arnold, or even at times maybe a Jordan Henderson. So I've left it off, but obviously inside forward on attack. On the left-hand side, the Mane role, I've gone for inverted winger on attack. Now, I've got them both on attack. Sometimes when I'm generally making these tactics, I do like a little bit of balance, but because there's so many crosses coming into the box, Liverpool would often make sure that these three, even though with Firmino not great in the air, Mane and Salah, the idea was that all three of them were in the box. So attack, just make sure that Mane kind of gets into these areas rather than floating around here and sort of like combining with the midfield. He probably did it more than what Salah did, but we want attack because we want him getting into the penalty area. No player instructions on him or Mo. And then the F9, Firmino leading the line. F9 obviously on support. Now I think the idea with this is obviously in possession. You would see Trent and Robertson moving up higher. We would get these players into these areas like this. And if anything, we would have something looking a little bit like that. Then the Firmino role dropping off into these areas. And then he would be looking for them direct passes of a wide Mane coming in from the left and Salah coming in for the right with then these players out here. So what I think it actually did as well, and then also with Firmino dropping in, with these two going a little bit wider, it then opened passing lanes, as you could see. These players in these sort of like half spaces in Gravenberch and McAllister, the Henderson and the Wijnaldum role, it did then allow some more direct passes into the feet of Firmino, who could then potentially turn if a defender didn't track him, or if a defender did track him, it then was a little bit times maybe a decoy run for then a Mane or a Salah to move into if there was a space left by the centre halves. So that is all the player roles and player instructions. If you want to download this tactic as a direct download, please check out the Patreon, link in the description. Helps the channel out enormously. Now this is sort of like a part-time job. Muchly appreciated if you check it out. Don't worry, I'm going to go through all the team instructions for you right now, so you can copy this in to your FM24 save. Let me know down in the comments if it works for you. I think it's classic FM attacking style. I think you'll have no problems. Team mentality, we've gone for attacking because they were encouraged to take risks. The possession numbers were good, but not absolutely amazing. We want to encourage those switches, those more risky passes. Remember, team mentality is based on risk, and there was a lot of risk in terms of long passes, crosses into the box. So that's why we've got attacking on. Slightly more direct passing. It wasn't long ball because Firmino was decent in the air, but it wasn't let's get it into the big target man and work off him. So we've just gone slightly more direct. Fairly wide attacking width. I will change that depending on opponent. In particular, we've come across low blocks and stuff. Definitely make that as wide as possible. Passing to space. Mane running from out to in. Salah moving from out to in. We want to encourage that. So that little bit of passing to space. Obviously as well, switches out for maybe a Robertson and a Trent to move into as well. Focus play left and right. We want the best 4 players. Mane, Robertson, Salah, Trent. We want to use them as much as possible, so that's why we've got that on. With play out of defence, remember the amount of passes, that long balls that Virgil van Dijk was playing. We want to do that as much as possible. And hit crosses early. If you see a little bit of an overkill, in my little bit of testing so far, I've not seen it yet. But if you're thinking they're just crossing a little bit too early now, if you think about it, Trent and Robbo often didn't get right to the byline and cut it back. So that's why I've got them on support and not attack. Because if you put them on attack, look, it does change the instruction of cross from the byline. And we don't want that because that means that they're going to get further forward. A lot of the heat maps, they were kind of in supporting roles rather than getting round these two. It was often sometimes as well, if you're getting more into these areas, it was often then a cut back to Trent or a cut back to Robbo who then would deliver a ball. So I'll leave that up to you guys in terms of clicking it on or off. In transition, counter press, obviously, really good PPDA numbers, only outdone by the numbers. I think it would have been Brendan Rodgers'. Yeah, it must have been Brendan Rodgers' Leicester City and obviously Ralph Hasenhüttl's Southampton. Really intense press. Obviously, he brought that over from Dortmund and just changed it and adjusted it to a bit. I think the amount of injuries Dortmund were getting towards the end of their campaigns made probably Klopp change a little bit towards that absolute rock and roll 100% gegenpress, but obviously we put it on for FM terms. And then counter, we want to release Mo, we want to release Mane as much as possible. Third in the league as well for counter-attacking shots. Distribute the ball to centre halves as much as we possibly can. Obviously, Alisson very good at the switches. He would have put it into there, but just because we want to try and encourage to build out from the back and in particular getting Trent, Robbo on the ball in build-up, getting Virgil van Dijk on the ball in build-up, we're going to push that. And I would maybe even, this little bit section here, distribute to area, distribute to position, and click it to Virgil van Dijk on the left-hand side. And then our possession, very simple, trap outside, higher press, much higher line. There you go. Here's a good example of a couple of things in particular. The role of Jota just coming off as that false 9, linking play, finding Mo, back to Trent. And obviously that more direct pass, passing from Trent, the run of Salah on attack, passing to space, lovely clip over. And then what you do like about an F9, just don't think that an F9 is just going to float about and do not. It's a striker. He wants to get in the penalty area. Look, good little move, low cross, and then a decent effort on goal from Jota. And here we go. Really good counter-attacking move. So into Endo, that anchor just playing it safe. Into Nunez. Jota peeling off. Defender, what we spoke about in the tactic bit at the start about, Jota, Firmino moving into that sort of like that deeper area. Does the defender track? Does the defender stay? Gay decides to stay. And then it allows Salah then to cut into that space. From out to in, he's through a goal. Look, he should score. He doesn't, but you would imagine a Mo Salah in real life would have absolutely buried that. And there we go. We're just going to watch this little bit of play. Now, it ends up being a Robertson assist. I think it's actually for Jota. So we're going to keep our eye on Robertson, and that's Darwin, and Jota playing as the false 9. So he just comes out, not overly. We've got the 2 wide wing backs. We've obviously got, that must be Endo. Yeah, Endo sitting in that anchor role. Quite direct. Look at Jota again, that movement with the F9, actually. It's really, this little bit of video clips that I've been showing you have really highlighted how good an F9 can be, especially if you want those 2 inverted, like an inverted winger and an inside forward. Absolutely lethal in terms of the gaps that it creates for other players. Now that, with a little bit of luck, with a little bit more quality, that pass could have probably potentially gone in there, like we had to the Salah chance earlier on. But it's worked out wide. Robertson delivers. We haven't got low crosses on. I've just put mixed crosses, but potentially a thing that you could do. But Jota's then created that havoc in there, spun, and then got in there right at the front post like a poacher. And that just shows you the movement of the F9 creates so much space in build-up. And then when the opportunity gets to get in the box, he still wants to score goals and gets in there. Now, people might ask, with the tactic, why have I not put on overlapping runs? Because both would generally overlap at times, but because I've not put it on, because they will do it naturally anyway. If you put the overlap on, as you can see with the instruction, look for overlap, instructs players on the left flank to hold onto the ball. That, for me, doesn't sound like Mo Salah. It doesn't sound like Mane, where they would hold, and wait for an overlap. So that's why I've not put it on. And as you can see, they still get into really good areas. They'll naturally overlap anyway, because Salah and Mane, the two wide players, want to come inside and combine with Jota. So there's still going to be always space and an opportunity out wide to overlap. And as I said, we don't want them to do it all the time, because we don't want them to cross from the byline all the time. We want to leave it a little bit open and a little bit more fluent and flexible. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Go check out the other tactical creations that I have done on the channel, including these two beauties on the screen right now. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you later.